So now looking at Rococo during the 18th century. And essentially, Rococo is mainly it's kind of like the art of the aristocracy. So by this time, we've reached the age of enlightenment. So there's everyone, as I like to say, is like a little toddler child asking why, why about everything. Um, and with that, different ideas, different philosophy. There's by now it's like the church's stranglehold on everything really starts to come to an end. So we have a shift away from religious imagery, and Rococo is much more lighthearted. It's more playful, much more softer colors, a lot more kind of pastel type colors that are being used. And so it's just like a completely different feel. Like I said, a lot of Rococo is more about the aristocracy. And so looking at France, the Elizabeth Vigée-Laverne, Marie Antoinette and her children, again, it's this more down-to-earth type image that we're seeing of Marie Antoinette, the Queen of England, Queen of France at the time. So it's a little more kind of a playful image. It's not so stiff and staunchy. It's showing her as this mother hanging out with her children. So getting away from a lot of the formal type imagery. Then Fragonard's Happy Accident of the Swing. Funny note, if you're familiar with the movie Frozen, there is a version of this in the movie where Princess Anna's running around the big castle, the palace, and she's like dancing around and jumping up and sort of like interacting with these paintings. And so she kind of like jumps up and kicks her foot. And then like as she's coming down, you sort of see this painting in the background. Which I was a bit startled at first just because the nature of the painting. And what is the happy accident of a swing? Most people tell accident of the swing. Either you tell a kid don't walk too close to the swing, he does it anyway, he gets kicked in the head or whatever, or they're not paying attention and they fly off, or they try to fly off on purpose, and it could end badly. Either way. But in this case, it's not quite that type of accident. So here we have this lady swinging, kicking her foot up, and a shoe's coming off. And so a couple of things we notice. To the left, first of all, there's a statue, with his finger up to his lip. Shh. Something's a secret here. We're not supposed to know about something. And then below him, down there in the bushes, you notice there is a man, and the happy accident is being able to look up the lady's dress. So I said the imagery is getting away from Christian natures and Christian idea and all of that. So the leisurely activity of the aristocracy, and so the whole idea of free love and thing like that. You get it. We're all adults. So I'll just end it there. So, and then so the guy, he's sitting there looking and getting this happy accident by her. Oh, she just kicks her foot, so shoes coming off. So you can probably guess what kind of the ideas behind this painting is about. Um, so some of the other kind of interesting imagery is below the lady. We have the statues where it's like one is a moth to a flame while the other one's pulling them away. And there in the shadows, it's more the interesting thing is that particular person, because if you are up to date on your 18th century fashion of clergy members from France, you would know that that is a bishop of the church who's basically helping this lady swing. So is it he's trying to pull her back to good morals, good ideas of not being with this guy, back to good morals, good values and all that? Or if he knows, if he's doing his job, this guy gets a better view, they fall in love, and who should officiate the wedding? So he's kind of an interesting role in this particular film. I mean, painting. So so you get the idea. So yeah, Rococo, like I said, it's the lavish, decadent lifestyle of the aristocracy. And in some ways, especially in France, it kind of does them no good because, the revolution that's sort of around the corner about to happen. And so looking at architecture, so much brighter, much softer colors. If you remember the Hall of Mirrors that still had kind of the heavy paintings on top, here they are removed. So everything's just kind of this nice pastel blue. Everything's kind of this gilded with silver. So again, it's just very bright and airy. At the same time, it's like this over the top decadence with it. It's just, borderline gaudy. Again, we have these massive, gigantic windows and these massive, gigantic mirrors, to really fill this room with a lot of light. So same ideas as kind of that we looked at Versailles, but in this case, the color, or it's a much brighter, airy type of room that we get. And so getting into neoclassicalism, so a guy outside Naples, if you're good with your geography of Italy, Naples kind of in the middle on the west coast. So a little ways north of Naples, kind of northwest, there's a very famous mountain, or technically a volcano. So Mount Vesuvius, actually. So a guy is out digging a well in the foothills here, outside Naples, and he gets down to what he think is, some type of layer of rock. He's like, I just got to bust through that, and I'll get to the water table. not that far from the coast, so I should be hitting water by now. So he gets, better equipment, breaks through the rock, falls down into what he thinks is a cave, but then he starts to figure out that this cave's really nice, good level floor. I don't know any caves like that. So then he gets a torch and he starts looking around. Not in a cave, but one of the villas of Pompeii. So Pompeii is on Earth as well as Herculaneum. Uh, and it's during this time that art history as a profession really starts to come into being, and same with archaeology. And so some of the stuff that comes about from that is this, looking back at the Roman Empire. And if you kind of remember the lectures of Rome, Rome was heavily influenced by Greece. So looking at, the neoclassical movement as a whole, there's a lot of, Greek and Roman imageries and ideas that they are looking at for their sort of inspiration. So David is kind of the poster child of neoclassicalism. So here we have his painting The Death of Marat. And Marat was, kind of long story short, he was like one of the leaders of the revolution. David's kind of interesting if you look at his story. Just whoever was in power at the time was who he was the champion and painting for. Yes, he was put in jail, but somehow he avoided execution. So he was always sort of, painting for whoever was in power. So in this case, with the Jacobean movement, Marat was one of the main ringleaders. He was kind of like the big philosophical guy to getting the ball rolling. And also, the thing about him was that he was always taking herbal baths. So if you were to meet with him, more than likely he'd be sitting in a bathtub. He had, some type of skin afflictions, so herbal baths helped him out. So one of the supporters of the monarchs, basically she arranged to have that one-on-one time, and she stabbed him. So there in the lower left we have the knife. Although, the actual events, apparently she butchered him up pretty good. David made this kind of nice, clean murder image, basically. And so then we have his writings there that you can see on his little desk there, and there's some under his arm, one in his hand, and that's just talking, all about the revolution and the ideas with that. But the interesting thing is how David painted Marat. So here we have this leader of a revolution. So the chance that you would actually see him, probably not too well. So how could David help give you a sense of how important this person was? So we've looked at some other images that were a little bit similar to this. If you're to, take off the little head wrapping, take him out of the bathtub, put a beard on him, give him a little longer hair, put wounds in different areas, and you basically have lamentation images. So David purposely using this sort of posture, or I guess sort of the slump of the body and the way the head's tilted. Lamentation images of Jesus. So sort of, making that association that, seeing this image of Marat, you would, instantly sort of think of the lamentation images of Jesus. When Jesus was, pulled down off the cross and handed over to Mary, his mother, and the few followers that still kind of stuck around. So one of his other paintings, Oath of the Horatii, and so this, painted a little bit before Death of Marat, and the Oath of Horatii is these three brothers. They are swearing an oath to their father, and you can tell by his clothes that he's a senator. So essentially, these three brothers are going to go fight another set of brothers to save Rome from, going to war. And so it's like, one of the other neighboring city-states that Rome is on the verge of a battle with. These three brothers say, we'll fight the other three. That's how we'll settle this. So here's the three brothers swearing the oath to their father. They'll do anything to uphold Rome. We will do whatever it takes for Rome. We're putting Rome above anything else. And then behind the father, off to the right, are the mother and the sisters. And of course, they understand what's going on, but at the same time, one of the sisters, she is married to one of the other brothers that are going to be fighting the Horatii brothers. So here she is, sort of torn between, her love of Rome and family. Should she question the love that she has for her husband, and the father of her children. And so when David painted this, was basically to sort of, right before the French Revolution. So the idea behind painting this was to try to get essentially, people to join the army, and so like I said, they're using these Roman tale of valor and civic virtue. Rome above all, France above all. So that this idea of, creating kind of this propaganda type image to make people want to join the French army at the time. And looking at the United States, Copley painting of Paul Revere. So most of us, we know, Paul Revere, he rode the horse, shouting out, the British are coming, the British are coming. And not really knowing, he is actually a silversmith by profession. So the way, sort of used in America with Paul Revere, as he's, becomes, more famous after this painting. For the Americans, it's sort of this introduction to classic ideology, these classic civilization of France and Greece, and reintroduction of the philosophy and philosophical thinking and all that. So essentially Paul Revere in this painting is sort of has the sort of appearance of a philosopher. He's not just a silversmith, but the big philosophy and the knowledge that he has, trying to sort of portray that in this image of Paul Revere. So next up, we will continue on and get into the beginnings of modern art.